So here's some news stories. So this is interesting. I know a lot of people are superstitious in China. They have a lot of fortune-telling traditions. And apparently there's one called Bazi, which is something that, like a horoscope, it takes the date and time of your birth and predicts your future from that. And they're using DeepSeek for it. So this is, I know a lot of such things, they must be becoming quite popular. And I suppose it makes about as much sense as Americans that would read a horoscope in the newspaper. So this is something that the government tried to deny, and they tried to say it was fake news, and now the government has officially admitted it. Since Trump set up this arranged humiliation for Zelensky with a plan to make to criticize him and abuse him and just repeat Russian talking points like Ukraine started the war and you're a dictator and stuff like that. So we're apparently not going to help Ukraine anymore, and we're just going to let Russia take it. And Trump had a private meeting with Putin without Zelensky. He had a meeting with Putin and in Saudis to basically decide how they're going to carve up Ukraine and make it spoils for America and Russia, is one interpretation of that I've heard. Anyway, so now since we're going to be on Russia's side in the war against Europe, Europe's now very afraid of us. We appear to be the enemy of Europe, Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Greenland, and therefore Denmark and Norway. We seem to be lining up to be on the Nazi side of the coming Third World War. The Russian side, I should say, Russia. Anyway, so since we're not going to be hostile to Russia, he's ordered U.S. Cyber Command to stop attacking Russia. We've been attacking Russia all along. This is an extreme activity. Some newspapers reported that we were also not going to take any defensive measures against Russian attacks on us at CISA, and CISA strongly objected and said they were going to continue to try to inform us and defend us from Russian attacks on us, although I'm very skeptical of that. I don't think. Trump always denied that Russia attacked us. In fact, he tended to fire people and anybody that dared to suggest that Russia ever does cyber attacks on us, because, of course, the main thing is they did a lot of attacks on us to try to make Trump president. And so he regards that as a personal insult to him to suggest that Russia would hack us. And so we'll see. But anyway, we're not going to attack Russia anymore. And I imagine we'll soon officially stop defending ourselves from Russian attacks, because Russia is now our best pal, or so that's the government's going to say. So the tariffs supposedly take effect tomorrow on Canada and Mexico, and Bloomberg calculates that this will raise the price of a car by $12,000. So the stock market already fell 700 points on this news, and I think it will fall a lot more. I think we're going to have a big decline in the economy, a recession, from the stuff Trump is pushing through, which is very much, the people voting on how much they trust Republicans with the economy have gone down a lot. That was his big thing, was that he'd keep the stock market up for his rich patrons, but apparently not anymore. So Microsoft, as you probably know, Europe has great problem using American services like Microsoft and Google and Yahoo. They need to use them because they have great services for cheap, but it's pretty illegal to put European data on American systems because Europeans have no privacy rights here. And there have been a series of laws passed for a few years giving them some kind of exception for that. Now Microsoft has now unveiled something called EU Data Boundary, which will let you use Microsoft services and apparently make sure that all your data is processed within the EU, which is something they do for Americans too. You can want all your data to stay in America and pay for that service on Azure, and they will do that. And this is important for government and intelligence agencies. The problem is, of course, right now, many European companies are very, very afraid of America. Since Trump has sided with Putin, they feel very much that America is now the enemy of Europe, and Britain is now talking about how they'll defend themselves against an American attack, and the rest of the European Union is saying the same thing. So just as Microsoft brings out this product, I think very many European governments are not going to use it. Just like we are banning Chinese companies, Europe is banning American companies with the quite reasonable position that they can't trust us. We appear to be their enemy. The same reason we banned Russian software like Kaspersky. If you're at war with a country or they are hostile, you can't use their software or their services. And I think we're adopting a very hostile position towards Europe. So Trump has now named cryptocurrencies in the strategic reserve, but he did something very strange. I mean, the people have suggested a Bitcoin reserve, and the logical thing to put in there would be Bitcoin and possibly Ethereum. None of the rest of the cryptocurrencies are stable enough or important enough. And that's what was talked about over the last year or two when they talked about having a strategic reserve of cryptocurrency in America. But when Trump announced it, he named several minor cryptocurrencies, and that was a strange statement. And then I just heard on a podcast on the way in that an unknown person bought $50 million in those currencies, or no, 200 million with 50-to-1 leverage. So somebody knew that Trump was going to mention them, and they bought a ton of it right before that. That's essentially insider trading. And that's one of the problems with cryptocurrency. Since they don't have any of the financial regulations of banks, they're just rife with insider trading and manipulated markets and such. So anyway, of course, they've gone up. So it's XRP, Solana, and Cardano are the other ones. Of course, when I first heard this, I wasn't inclined to see anything evil in it. These are pretty much the top 5 cryptocurrencies. So they're what you'd expect. Although I would think, logically, it should only be Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only one that has any real reason to exist. Anyway, it looks like we are going to have a strategic reserve. If the cartel were to hurt or shoot our troops on the border, would we go to war with the Mexican cartel or Mexico as a whole? Well, what the Project 2025 people have talked about is bombing the cartels in Mexico without permission of their government in order to stop supposedly fentanyl from coming in. And the Mexican government has said, you can't do that without our permission. That would be an act of war. So that's the most likely thing they've talked about that would start a war. But what Trump has actually done is talk a lot about the tariffs. And it looks like, I don't think there's going to be a shooting war with Mexico or Canada. What there's going to be is a trade war, as we have reciprocal tariffs on both sides, hurting both economies greatly, which is what happened in the last Trump term. He had started trade wars with people. It was China then. But you know, it's a good point, though. If we were to do a military action, it would be against the cartels, and the Mexican government has said they wouldn't allow that. I don't know if they'd actually shoot our troops for it. Hopefully we won't have to see that. We're going to see. But certainly Trump's whole policy is to alienate our friends and make alliances with our enemies. It's reversing everything. The main lesson I see is that no elected Republican politician has any principles at all. They all just totally reverse their position on a dime. None of them mean a word they say. They're just repeating whatever the script is handed to them by Trump, regardless of what it says. And so Carlos Slim, this is another thing Elon Musk does. Elon Musk, I think he does too many drugs. So he does a lot of this. Somebody put a tweet saying, Carlos Slim is in Mexico, he's rich, therefore he must be in bed with the cartels. And Elon Musk retweeted that, and therefore Slim canceled his $7 billion contract with Starlink. So he loves to accuse people of being pedophiles too, and similar disastrous business arrangements. This is why a lot of people are beginning to talk about pushing Elon Musk out of being the CEO of Tesla, because his outrageous political moves keep harming the stock price of Tesla. But it hasn't happened yet, because if Tesla didn't have Elon Musk at the head, I think it would fall by a factor of 10, because it would have to actually have a price based on the actual cars they sell, and its price is easily 10 or 15 times what it should be based on the cars they sell. The Tesla price is held up entirely by Elon Musk being famous. So they need him, even though he's both a blessing and a curse. Anyway, that's enough of the news.